Hello, thank you for joining me again for another Weatherquest farming forecast. Lots to talk about, particularly to do with the very hot weather that we're experiencing at the moment. I suspect it will change, but to see how, let's start off and first of all have a look at where the jet stream is. We get used to looking at jet streams to see how the weather's moving. It's particularly good at identifying areas of changeable weather. Well, the main jet stream, as it often is in the summer months, is well to the north and taking unsettled weather into northern Scandinavia and across northern Russia. But we do have another jet stream close by. It's a sort of horseshoe-shaped affair, and this is to do with an old area of low pressure way to the southwest of Britain. And it is the reason for some slightly more unsettled weather going across the southwest into southern Ireland. But in between here, there's not much going on in a jet stream sense, and the weather is fairly settled, although low-level wind directions can affect it quite a lot in terms of how much cloud there is and the temperature levels. So let's have a talk about the main theme, which is the temperature. And you can see this week we've got some very hot air moving out of North Africa, across Spain, across France, and just approaching the southern part of the British Isles. And it is going to continue to feed up towards us over the next 24 hours or so. Prior to this, we've had a wind from the North Sea. So the eastern side of the country in the south has been fairly cool feeling and at times a bit cloudy. But in the west, there is a lot of strength to the wind, a southeasterly wind blowing this warm air across, and it just feels like walking around in a fan oven with this sort of heat moving up across the southwest. It's also where the unsettled weather might be, what little there's going to be. But it is the area that stands a chance of getting some showery bursts of rain. So let's have a look at the intensity of this heat. Well, it is extreme in parts of Spain and going into France. The temperature already has reached 45 degrees Celsius in France today, and that's their all-time record for any month. So things certainly have started to set records there, and we can have a look at some of the records which have been reached in this hot spell so far up to yesterday, and you can see that when you compare their record, say in Poland, yesterday they reached 38.2. When this was compiled, the record in France was 41.5. This week up to yesterday, 42.3. Today, 45. This is not a trivial heat wave in any sense, and this warm air is going to have a lot of impacts for agriculture, particularly in terms of drying out the surface soils, but it's also doubtless, I suspect, a problem for heat stress, but it may be something that the haymakers might be feeling is about time it came up to this part of the country. So let's have a look and see what we're going to do for the rest of the period. It depends a lot for us on where this high is and where it goes to next. You can see the blue areas here. These are areas of showery rain that are going to move, as I mentioned, past the southwestern corner of the country. But eventually this high is going to move down to the southeast into the continent. Now, you might not think that's much of a movement. It's actually quite a significant thing for us, because not only does it change our wind direction, but it also allows the winds to shift around over the north and west of the country and take these weather features, albeit showery and rather hesitant features, across the north. And then eventually, by the end of next week, we've got another high appearing, and that's going to bring a return of the drier, settled weather. May just leave one or two showers drifting past the northeastern corner of the country for a time. But overall, the message is one of dry weather, except in the north and west to begin with, over this weekend and next week, when we'll see those unsettled areas moving across the top of the chart. It also, you might well ask, in the south, is this going to move down to the south of the country? You may have noticed in that sequence, very few of those blue dots got as far as the south. So I think there will be some places that do in fact stay completely dry. So with the higher temperatures, it does seem as if it's quite a good period for perhaps thinking about some haymaking. So to watch out for the showers where they do occur, very important from a haymaking point of view, WQRadar, really useful tool. WQRadar.co.uk is where you can find all the information. But it's not just radar. it shows observations of the weather too. Temperatures, wind speeds, how much rain has fallen in the last hour from a heavy shower, all useful stuff to help you make those decisions about whether to pack up shop for the day or whether to stop for an hour and come back again later on. It'll even send you a text alert to tell you when there's lightning detected nearby. So the details, as I said, WQRadar.co.uk, you will find that a very useful asset to have with you out on the farm. So let's have a look now at one or two other parameters that may interest you in shaping where we go next. This is a pressure pattern. So it's what the models, many different runs of the models, suggest the pressure is going to do up to the middle of July. So it's a long while ahead. Here we've got the higher pressure of our high, remember it was over the North Sea, then it dips as the cold front comes through. That's on Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So it looks like a major change, but it's a very slim chance of producing rain in the south. But it does then build again, and pressure builds as the next high drifts across from the southwest. So it's a different high, but it will still give us high pressure, and for many parts of the country, dry weather as well. So that takes us up to here, the end of next week. So what happens then? You've got a lot of lines appearing here now. They're all here on this one as well, but they're all very close to the same sort of forecast. But as we get farther ahead in time, then what's happening is there's a spread in the outcomes of the models. There's not quite so much certainty. So some of them go for fairly high pressure, some of them go for some sudden low pressure periods. So there is a hint, this block here of runs of the model which suggest next weekend we could find slightly lower pressure for a time. So that's something that might represent the next sort of more serious attempt at getting some rain to move across the country. But after that, it's all much of a muchness, and it runs along at a fairly average sort of value with no great changes from one week to the next. So another feature which will doubtless be interesting you at the moment is water resources. And with high evaporation rates and very warm air, the thing is warm air holds much more moisture. So this hot weather is very good for taking moisture out of the soil and from the plants. And with those strong winds in the southwest of the country, it's particularly good. So here we have the amount by which the moisture decreases from the surface during the next 10 days. And you can see a lot of agreement in the models. They're all going in the same direction. And we end up about 30 to 40 millimetres below where we are now. So that's how much water you need to put in to the surface at the end of this 10-day period to bring it back to where it is at the moment. So some places doubtless will not be as bad as this because there might be a shower or two, but not very many of them. Okay, it's time now to mention one other important thing that you can do at this time of the year, and that is talk to the forecasters. The forecasters on duty every day looking at all of these models, keeping you up to date as well. If you phone them on this phone number, they can give you the latest version of where we think we're going in terms of how many days dry we've got for the haymaking prospects and so on. And also changes in potato blight conditions, high humidities and high minimum temperatures, not a good result for that. But we're going to cool things off a little bit as we go past this weekend. But by all means, have a talk to our forecasters. They're there to help you, and I'm sure you'll be able to ask them the questions that you need help with. So let's have a look now at the next 4 weeks. This chart, we've used a sequence of these before to demonstrate how the weather might change. This is a pressure anomaly chart. So what it means is how different the pressure is to what it normally is on average. And it's an indicator of the sort of characteristics of the weather. So this is showing the red colours, higher than average pressure, higher than normal. So a bias towards high pressure over the country, particularly the north, as we go through this first week. This is the end of June into early July. Slightly lower pressure in the south and very unsettled weather. Remember I said that jet stream was going up across northern Scandinavia. That is where the unsettled weather is, and the pressure ends up being lower than you'd normally expect. Okay, week 2, still a bias towards higher pressure. Still a bias towards lower pressure to the south of us, and the hint, I guess, of a slight east or northeasterly drift to things. No great strength in these signals over the south of the country, so no particularly strong wind, strong weather situations other than the typical high summer threat of the odd heavy shower. Okay, let's go on to week 3, and it all becomes a bit meh, really. Not much of a strong signal for either low pressure or high pressure. Now that can be a feature of models. They tend to be less extreme as you go ahead, and if they do show something extreme, you need to take notice of it. But in this case, nothing extreme, so I suspect it's going to feel like a pretty typical middle of July. Harvest starting for a few of you, I'm sure. So you're going to be interested to know that the normal features of your weather that you deal with at harvest time will be features coming up in this period too. So it looks as though it's just the odd risk of some showers developing and a real bland look to week 4 as well. No strong signals there either. Hint that we might have some low pressure to the east of us over Europe. You'd expect that to produce some thundery weather over there. But for us, I suspect nothing too extreme. But that doesn't mean no shower risk. It just means not a widespread breakdown of the weather as things stand at the moment. And that's the beauty of these month ahead forecasts. If you do them once a week, you can keep up to date with changing trends. And I thoroughly recommend you get into the habit of following us on YouTube and looking at these farming forecasts, because it's amazing how many interesting things crop up and how you can get an early idea as to potential changes. So what have we got? We've got often dry weather, particularly in the south, a risk of some unsettled weather to begin with in the north. Some cool nights, perhaps needs a bit more explanation. Not cold, but just cooler than this very close high humidity weather that we've got, so fresher, easier to sleep and kinder to the animals. Warm at times in the south because it's summer, higher temperatures, lots more sunshine, sun higher in the sky, so you will get some warm days. And when you're in the sunshine, it can be very strong, so remember the sun cream as well. And then some brief wetter spells. I think from the signals that we were looking at a little while ago, with no strong lows and signs of strong windy weather, it is a case of wetter spells from slow moving areas of thundery showers possibly, things like that. That can mean heavy rain locally, but not in a widespread sense for the whole country. So there we are, there's your next 4 days. I hope you've gained something from it. If you want to get in touch with us, then please do so. You can reach us on Twitter, and you can follow us by email, and that is through info@weatherquest.co.uk. We'll be pleased to hear from you if you've got any ideas for things you'd like to see included. If you just want to provide feedback or tell us how your farming is going in the light of the current weather, we'd be interested in that as well. Thank you for watching.